Hey guys, it's Brooke with SupertutorTV, and today I'm going to tell you how to self-study for the new SAT. If you're here, I assume that you are interested in improving your SAT score in some way. What I'm going to recommend to you is actually the exact same process that I do as a private tutor. You go, you take a practice test. So even if you already took the PSAT, you can either take that PSAT and do this process on the PSAT, or you can take a new practice test. Either way. You go over each question you got wrong, and you ask yourself, why did I get this question wrong? And what can I do to get it right the next time? Those are the questions that you're going to be asking yourself over and over again. But also in that process, what you want to be asking yourself is, what is the fundamental problem that I'm having that is causing me to get this type of question wrong? And how can I fix that problem? I'm going to talk about 4 different categories that I see as a private tutor and how I address those categories. So the first category I want to talk about is if you're rusty. A lot of times what might happen on a question on the SAT is you look at it and you go, oh my goodness, I totally used to know how to do that, but I forget how to do it now. So if that's kind of what's going on, one of the best things that you can do is review. Usually my first line of defense is doing basic review. And what I mean by basic review is going back and finding worksheets that are very simple and very straightforward and aren't as complex as a normal SAT problem. One of my favorite sites for very basic review is a worksheet site called CUDA Software. They have free worksheets. Your teachers might use them at school even. You can go there, you can just review your basic skills. The other place that I go for a review of basic skills is actual math books. So sometimes with my students, depending on how much review they need, if they're really, really rusty and they really totally spaced and forget the math principles that are behind the question itself, we will go back to their math books. If you get a hold of your Algebra 1, Algebra 2, geometry book, you can also go to the library to get a hold of those, or you can look for some online and you can go and look up the chapter on whatever it is that you're rusty on, so you can review it, maybe even do the odds in the chapter and look up the answers in the back of the book and check yourself. That's another thing that I do as a tutor to try to help people get less rusty and get sharp enough to be able to do this test and even the complex questions on the test. Now, once you're less rusty on the basics, you can also get a little bit less rusty on the more complex questions, and that you can do through drills on the Khan Academy website. The Khan Academy website, basically in the math section, everything is subdivided by individual question type, which is amazing. And you can go and just drill down whatever it is that you're having trouble with. You can even import your PSAT into Khan Academy and it will tell you what level you're at on all the different questions, and then you can address the stuff that you're on maybe level 1 or level 2 on first and then move up to the higher levels. Obviously, math is something that people are more rusty on usually than reading or writing, but sometimes I see that people are rusty on their grammar skills, meaning they kind of know grammar, but they kind of forgot it. So if you're rusty on your grammar skills, you can also go and get a grammar book of some sort. I recommend getting a book that's by, say, like an independent tutor or something like that, where they've really delineated out each rule that you have to know and then giving you a little practice set to help drill into your head what that rule is. The next area that you want to be aware of or sensitive to as you're going over your practice test is if you are too slow. If you're not reading fast enough, you should check out my video on speed reading. Not all of it applies. I wouldn't really listen to the stuff about not subvocalizing because that's like a skill that takes forever to learn. But you can build some better habits in terms of reading. And if you take a look at that video, there's some ideas there that might help you out. Another tip that I have is before you just start timing yourself and getting out a stopwatch and trying to speed up, sometimes that's not actually the best way to speed up. Imagine if you're playing a musical instrument and you have a really difficult, challenging passage, right? Let's say you play the piano. You're gonna slow down and you're gonna play it really slowly over and over again until you build that muscle memory and you know exactly how the passage goes. And then you can speed up, speed up, speed up, speed up, right? And suddenly you can play it at full speed and then you can play it perfectly. If you try to speed it up immediately, what's gonna happen is you're gonna make mistakes. And the same thing can happen on the SAT. So I know it's counterintuitive, but one of the tips that I have is if you're having trouble finishing something in time, slow down first so that you can build familiarity with the test and really understand it. Once you have mastered the test a little bit on that slow angle, you can get out that watch or that stopwatch that you've got and start to do little timed drills. The other thing about timing is you don't just have to time yourself on the whole expanse of the exam. You can break the exam up into little sections. In the math section, you can even time out each question itself. In the reading section, you might figure out how long does it take me to read the passage, subtract that off the amount that you have for the passage, and then figure out how much you should be doing per question. So there's all sorts of little things you can do if you just use your math mind and start meeting things out into little pieces so that you can drill yourself. And that's something that I do with my students as well. So if you're slow, there are some ideas for how you can work on your speed. Next, if you're confused, so really what this is about is content. If you're having trouble with content, the best way to work on content is to learn the content. Again, Khan Academy is a great resource for going over individual problems, but sometimes the explanations aren't all there. And if you find that their explanations aren't good enough for you, you might need to get a supplemental book or something to help you. In terms of the reading section, when it comes to not understanding material, if you're scoring below about a 600 on the reading overall, and you know you're having trouble with the passages, with reading passages, I would actually recommend that you work on your vocabulary. I know you think, oh, this test isn't supposed to be about vocabulary. It is about vocabulary. You have to have enough of one to read some pretty difficult passages. So if that's you, check out our mnemonics video. That is a great resource for vocabulary ideas. And there's several book series you can also take a look at. One is called Vocabulary Workshop. Another is called Wordly Wise. Another thing that might be confusing for you, if you're doing some of these drills on Khan Academy and you've got the grammar rules, you might get to some of the explanations and it'll say, this is a modifier of blah, 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 or this is a subject verb agreement error. You might not know what those things mean. So if you're confused by that kind of stuff, one of the best things that you can do is get a hold of a strategy guide for the writing section of the SAT. Strategy guide is a little bit different from like a general test book. Like this book is 8 practice tests for the SAT. That's not what I'm talking about if you're gonna get a book. I recommend you get something more like this. This is the College Pandas SAT writing. I'm working on a book too. Eventually it will be out. But go get a book written by some sort of independent tutor that goes through every single grammar rule on the SAT, and that will help you out. You will have more of an idea of what's going on. Finally, the last area that you want to try to address potentially is careless errors. I know I make careless errors. That's like the one kind of error that's the toughest to get rid of. So if you find yourself making a lot of careless errors or thoughtless mistakes, you need to practice on either building your focus or building out safety nets for yourself. And there's lots of different ways to do that. You can read every word, you can circle important details, you can reread the question in the math section before you actually put the answer choice. But every time you go over a wrong answer choice and you have made a careless error, what I like to say is that's a process error, not a careless error. It means something about the process that you used to do this problem was not watertight. When you go over your practice tests, you have to have your total analysis cap on. It is not just about you seeing the right answer and going, oh yeah, that makes sense. That is not enough. You have to see what the right answer is. You have to understand how you could have gotten to the conclusion that that was the right answer in the first place. And you have to adjust your understanding of approach so that you can get there next time. Basically, the bottom line is the best way to self-prep is to learn from your mistakes and then work on your mistakes. I have another video, it's called Why You Shouldn't Study, and it's all about the same idea. Some people have called it the testing effect, which is this idea of test yourself and then figure out what you did wrong and go over it, and that's one of the best ways you can learn. If you're interested in the psychology or some of the social science studies behind that idea, you should check out that Why You Shouldn't Study video. And otherwise, what I'm gonna say is check out the blog post that has to do with this whole video. And I'm gonna give you a little bit more of an overview of some of the kinds of materials that you might wanna be using, how to distribute those materials, and what kind of a timeline you might wanna build. But for now, that's about it. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. And if you're interested in this and you are on this path to self-study and you've got a few months to do this, I really recommend that you subscribe to this channel and you check out our website, SupertutorTV.com. You can subscribe to our mailing list. You can follow us on Facebook and keep plugged in because we're gonna have more resources for you guys down the road. The younger you are, the more we will have for you. So check it out. Thanks for joining us, and I will see all of you next time on Super Tutor TV. Bye.